always wanted to grow annual wildflowers in your garden, but you're not quite sure how to get started, or you just want to know more about how to grow them in general?
In this video, we're going to help you build your annual wildflower knowledge and help you grow these in your garden step by step.
Hi, we're Sean and Allison from Spoken Garden, and we're partnering with Eden Brothers to help you in your garden.
Yeah, we want to help you become a better gardener and grow your best flowers and vegetables yet. So let's talk about annual wildflowers. Now, before we show you how to sow this annual wildflower seed mix, there's a couple things we'd like you to know. First off, all of these seeds will germinate, grow, and flower, and then die back all in 1 year. So it's really fun to see everything that's in this wildflower seed mix. Plus, there's 20 different wildflowers that grow in this seed mix, including Clarkia, Cosmos, California Poppy, cornflowers, and a lot more. Now, these wildflowers are easy to grow and they all have a high germination rate. They're mainly hardy in zones 3 through 10. Most of these wildflowers will thrive in full sun, but some will also do okay in filtered shade. Now, they all have pretty much average water needs, and they're all going to bloom pretty much from the summer into the fall. Now, these wildflowers thrive in gardens that usually don't have overly moist soils or really any standing water around them, but they don't like to be pampered either, so you don't really need to have the most fertile soil to grow these in your garden. Now, they do like well-draining sandy soils, but porous soils are okay and they don't really need any fertilizer.
So the flowers in this annual mix are going to come in a lot of different fun shapes and colors, including daisy and daisy-like flower shapes, spikes, cones, and even big clusters, and all kinds of different colors. So most of the wildflowers in this mix are going to grow up to a height of about 25 or so inches tall. But there are sunflowers in this mix, which could grow up to a height of about 6 feet tall, so just keep that in mind. And all of these annuals are going to grow in an upright growth habit. This annual mix will be great for cut flowers and any bouquets you want to create, so that's really fun. And this annual mix is really versatile too. You can plant it in the ground, in containers, and you can use it to fill in open spaces around your garden or even create a wildflower meadow. And one last benefit to mention is these flowers come in a rainbow of colors, which attracts so many pollinators, so bees, butterflies, and hummingbirds. Now let's talk about when to sow your seeds so you can start planning. You can sow in the spring because these are all annuals and they're going to bloom and grow anytime from spring into the fall. So you're going to want to time it so you sow them 1 to 2 months after your last spring frost. If you accidentally plant them too early, you do run the risk of losing your tender seedlings to any frost, so be careful with that.
Now, we want to show you how to sow these seeds, but first, you're going to need to find a full sun location in your garden to plant these seeds in. Now, where I'm standing right now gets morning shade, but it does get at least 6 hours or more of afternoon sun, full sun right in this location. What you're also going to have to do is make sure to weed the area. You're also going to need to rake out any debris and clear any vegetation away before you actually start prepping the soil. Now, after you've got the area cleared out, you're going to need to break up the soil, and you want to go down probably about 6 inches, maybe even down to 12 inches if you can. You want to really break up that soil. You want to make it nice and loose so all of your seeds that germinate have a lot of nice loose soil to now grow their roots into. Now, also to break up your soil, if you just have a general rototiller, like a gas-powered electric rototiller, you can use that too. Now, after we've broken up our soil, we need to add some compost or some just well-draining new soil and mix it into the native soil to make sure that it has a lot of different nutrients and it'll drain really well. Now, if you're not sure how much compost or new soil to add into this area, you can start off with a 1/2 inch or even just a full inch layered over the top as best you can, and then that should be good enough. Just make sure to mix it in. Now that we've mixed it all together, we need to smooth it back out and get it as level as possible before we sow and broadcast the seeds. If there's any chunks of soil that are in there or any other debris that you weren't able to get before, make sure to rake that out so this is as smooth and as level as you can get it. Now, let's get to sowing these seeds. What you need to know before you sow the seeds is that each one of these seeds need to be planted either about 1/4 inch or even just 1/8 inch below the soil surface. So what we're going to do is now that our area is ready to go, I'm going to spread these seeds and broadcast them over this area. Now, what I have here is 1/4 pound of the annual wildflower seed mix, and this is good for an area that's anywhere from 250 to 500 square feet. And so you can see we have a really good area right here that this seed packet, this amount of seed, will cover, and we'll get a nice thick patch of annual wildflowers. And then what I'll do is I'll take some extra soil and sprinkle it over the top of those seeds once they're down, and we'll get that about 1/8 inch to a 1/4 inch depth that way. Now, if you're worried about not being able to see where you sowed the seed at because your soil is a little bit lighter in color, and you're also worried that you won't get an even distribution of the seed over the area you're planting them in, there's a really easy fix for that, and that's to mix your seed with sand. Now, what you need to do is mix 5 parts sand to 1 part of your seed. So mix that all together, get it evenly mixed up as best you can, and then spread all of that mix over the area where you're going to plant it in. In our case, we would do it right here. And that way we'll be able to visually see where we place down all the seed with that sand, and you'll get a really good even distribution of the seed in this area.
Just going to sprinkle these seeds over the top. This is my way of broadcasting them, and I'm just going to do this over the top like you see here. And I'm going to go kind of light on my first go around. With any seed left over, I'll go over those areas again. Now, before I add that 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch soil over the top, I'm going to rake the seed into the soil to make sure there's good contact between the soil and the seed. So that contact with the soil is as good as it can be, and it's nice and tight.
We're going to sprinkle this other soil, this leftover soil, over the top to give us that 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch coverage. Now, before we do the last step of watering these seeds in, if we can, it's always a good idea to just tamp down and kind of just compact all this area so we get good soil to seed contact. Now, if you don't want to do this by hand, you can use a tamper, you can use a seed roller. Some people even might walk over it, but you might not want to do that because you can actually take the seed in your shoes, pick it up, and then spread it in other places, and then it won't come up where you want it to. Now, let's just water these seeds in. We're going to do our best to just evenly water it. We don't want to overwater this area though. We don't want standing water, because if we get standing water after we've just planted the seeds, it could pull some of the seeds all together and take it away from other places. And then we'll just have patches everywhere. The other thing is if we have enough water and it's starting to flow other places, it could take the seed and take it away from where we just planted it. Now, after your seeds have germinated, in the weeks and months to come, get these plants on a regular watering cycle so they stay hydrated and they can become established in your garden faster. Now, it's a good idea to grow these wildflowers on the drier side of things so you don't need to water until the top layer of the soil, the very surface of the soil, is dry, and then give it some water. But on hot days, like in the summer when it's really dry and it's really, really hot, and that, make sure to give them a little supplemental water because you don't want them to dry out. And if they do dry out, this could impact their growth and actually their flowering. These annual wildflowers will flower 2 to 3 months after they germinate, so please be patient. Now, if you want bigger plants and bigger flowers, make sure to also add a fertilizer to their watering schedule. And so you can fertilize about every 1 to 2 weeks with a liquid fertilizer, or use a granulated fertilizer, a time-release fertilizer that'll actually fertilize and get those plants those nutrients every time you water. Now, it's always a good idea to keep up the weeding around your plants, and these annual wildflowers are no different. But if you want to have a more of an open meadow look, keep some or let some of those weeds grow in, and that'll give it a more natural look. Now, if you're not looking for a more natural look and you want to keep it more kept, you can always keep up all the weeding around those plants, and to help keep the weeds at bay, you can mulch around your annual wildflower patch, and that'll also help keep moisture in and around that soil so it's more readily available for those plants to take up. Now, after that first flush of flowers has started to wither back and die back, you can deadhead and go through and clean all those up, and that'll help encourage more flowering of those plants to continue on. Now, as far as pests and diseases go, some of these plants are susceptible to them, and the diseases they're susceptible to include powdery mildew, fungal leaf spot, and other root rots, especially if they're kept in really wet, moist growing conditions or soils. Now, the pests they're susceptible to are slugs, snails, aphids, and spider mites. Now, in the fall, once your plants have stopped growing and they're actually withered back down to the ground, you can cut them back down at the ground, or you can completely remove them by removing their roots, their stems, their leaves, everything. Another way to do it too is just bring in your mower and mow them down to the ground, and you're done. Now, definitely keep in mind that some of these annual wildflower species will reseed in the area where you already planted them, but it won't be the same amount of flowers from last year.
If you want to harvest cut flowers from your annual wildflower patch, Make sure the stems are at least 12 to 18 inches long before you harvest. Cut the stems back to a leaf axil or lower flower stem so you can have a second harvest. Try to harvest as close to the flower opening as possible or just before the flowers have fully opened to get the longest vase life. Harvest in the early morning after watering when the plants are least stressed and the stems are strong. Place each stem in cool, clean water in a 5-gallon bucket immediately after cutting. When harvesting cut flowers and removing old flowers, it gives each plant the chance to redistribute needed nutrients to the other developing flowers and can also create more space for other surrounding flowers to grow.
Now, if you need more flower planting, growing, or harvesting tips, you can always go to EdenBrothers.com and check out their planting guides.
And we hope this video was really helpful for you in sowing your own annual wildflower patch. And from us at Smoke and Garden and Eden Brothers, thanks for watching.